Can you guess what this watch is? I know it's just a silhouette, but take a look at it and see if you can guess what watch this really is. Or at least guess the type of watch that it is. What category does it live in? What about this watch? Now, I know that you can guess this one. Now hold that thought, because the reason why is going to save you thousands of dollars on your next luxury watch purchase. And I'm going to prove it to you before this video is over. The reveals are coming at the end, so stay with me. Here's what this video is about. There are watches that were so groundbreaking when they came out that they literally broke the mold of what a wristwatch was. They are the diver, the chronograph, and the integrated bracelet sports watch. If you own these watches, you can make an intelligent decision when buying your next luxury watch. Of course, tracking the wrist time and let the data tell you exactly where your luxury money should go. But most collectors never do that. They spend everything that they can on a watch, hoping that watch will fill the gap, and then they feel obligated to wear it. Probably because they spent so much money on it, they can't bring themselves to admit that they bought the wrong watch. I've talked to guys who bought a watch they don't even like, but they're still wearing it because the gray market loss would hurt more than the regret. So you can go out and spend 6 figures on, let's say, a Nautilus. But if you're picking up a diver every day, maybe you wasted your money on that watch. But how do you know that you're buying the best luxury watch? Maybe you're going to buy an integrated bracelet when what you really want is a diver, or what you would really wear is a chronograph. That's what this channel is all about. The Watch Collection Lab is built so that you run the experiments, track your wrist time, and then buy with confidence. Now, here's some more watches to take a look at. And these are going to be a little more difficult for you to guess which watch these are. Which watch is this? And which watch is this? And that's because when watches went from pocket watches to trench watches to wristwatches, there really hasn't been anything groundbreaking except for those 3 watches that I mentioned at the beginning: the diver, the chronograph, and the integrated bracelet. The rest are just watches. Now, of course, once you see them maybe close up, you can identify what it is, right? You'll notice the thinness of the Calatrava, or you'll notice the legibility of the Mark 20, but you couldn't tell from across a crowded room. And that's the difference between what I think are the archetypes and everything else that's just a watch. Then there are some iconic watches that you can probably also guess because their silhouettes are so unique. So the reveals are going to be at the end, so keep watching. But here's the 6 categories. They cover every situation that you'll ever face when wearing a watch. And 3 of these announce themselves from across the room, which are the diver, the chronograph, and the integrated bracelet sports watch. The other 3, the dress watch, you'd need to see how thick it is, or close up to see how elegant the watch is. The military watch would need to show its legibility, whether it's a pilot's watch or whether it's a field watch. And the everyday sports watch is just that. It's kind of a mix of all of the things, but yet excellent at nothing, like a jack of all trades. But I want to talk about the integrated bracelet sports watch, and specifically the Patek Philippe Nautilus. I commissioned one to be custom made to order from an online store on eBay. It was built to my exact specifications. I wanted to make sure that it had my wife's birth year on the back, which coincidentally is the same year as the Nautilus, and I wanted the year that we were introduced, because to me that held a specific sentimental value, making me reach for the watch more than I would another watch. My wife was born in the bicentennial year, and now that we're celebrating 250 years of this country, I figured it'd be a great time to produce this video. And I made sure that the dial had on it not just my name, where Patek Philippe would be, or Detroit, where Geneva would be. I also wanted it to be called the Metropolitan, after Metropolitan Tabernacle in Chesterfield, Michigan. It's the place where I first saw Jennifer across a crowded room. And I knew something was different before I could even explain it. It wasn't just her beauty, but it was something about her that made me stop and stare. And that's exactly what these watches do, because they're icons. From across a crowded room, you know exactly what you're looking at before you're close enough to see a single detail. That Nautilus silhouette comes into focus right here, and there it is. Now I want to be clear about something. The Metropolitan is not trying to replace the Nautilus. That's not what this is about. It's the sentimental value that does the work of the icon's story. It makes you reach for the watch. Just like when Hillary summited Everest, he was wearing an Oyster Perpetual, not an Explorer. But because that story transferred, that was the brilliant thing that Rolex did. They took the story and they made a watch out of it. And you can do the same. And that's what I did with the Metropolitan. I built the story onto the prototype before the wrist time even started. Therefore, when I put it on, I already know it means something. And that's what I'm after. Before the Metropolitan went on my wrist, I scored it against the Nautilus 5711. 10 pillars, 100 points possible. This had a PT 5000 movement, and it's made out of 904L stainless steel. It's got the same porthole geometry, and I kept the design for the logo pretty much the same as the icon. The scorecard on the screen right now tells you exactly what to expect before the experiment begins. The prototype is the experiment, the icon is the question, and the lab produces the data so the collector can make the call. Okay, I promised you those reveals at the top of this video, so here we go. Yeah, you guessed the dive category, but what was the watch that you saw in your mind? Was it the Submariner? And then what about the chronograph? You probably noticed that there were no screw-down pushers, so maybe you picked the Speedmaster? And you'd be right about that. I don't think there was any debate as far as what the integrated bracelet sports watch was, because look at that crown. It looks like a bolt. Of course, it's the Royal Oak. And what about this watch? It is a dress watch, but because of its rectangular shape, you probably identified it easily as the tank. But some of these silhouettes you couldn't peg down, but maybe you did. Maybe you said, wow, that looks like a field watch, or maybe that's a dress watch. Maybe you could see the difference. Something about it said something. Or maybe you said, hey, that looks like a everyday sports watch. A go anywhere, do anything type watch. That's what these experiments are for. They are to help you identify what you really reach for and what goes on your wrist. So if you have two dress watches, a round one and a rectangular one, and then you have the other 5 categories, then you have enough watches to do your own collection. And believe it or not, you can do this all for under $1,000. And if you really already think that you might know what you really would wear and what you want, go ahead and customize it. Put your story on the dial. That way, you're going to reach for it as much as you would the icon. So when you saw the reveals, what watch stood out in your mind before the actual watch revealed, and in which category? Put it in the comments below. I read every single one. And tell me down there, do you want to see maybe a video about what the perfect 3-watch collection would look like? Because I'm ready to make it if you're ready to watch it. So if you're interested in curating the perfect watch collection, subscribe. Hit the bell. Coming up, we're going to make a custom prototype from an online seller so that your experiment starts with a watch that already means something. Until next time, thanks for watching.
Watch Collection Lab. Watch Collection Lab. Watch Collection Lab. Watch Collection Lab. Watch Collection Lab.